Welcome to Daddy Ball, an in-depth look at the issue of parent coaches in youth sports. Something I've come across a lot recently is a lot of comments, Instagram posts, Facebook posts warning parents about the issues of joining a youth sports team with a parent as a coach. And I totally understand the potential bias that may come up, and we all have heard horror stories about some of these issues and biases. But I really wanted to get an in-depth look and really talk to some parents on teams to really see, is this as big of an issue as it's played out to be on the internet, or are some of these people making an issue out of something that's not really there? So we're going to talk with 6 different dads of various teams. Some are coaches, some are not, some choose to coach, and some have left that up to a paid coach. And we really just want to dig in, provide some value, and hopefully give you some different perspective on the issue. I think there's a lot of great points that come up in these discussions, and it's not a simple black or white yes or no answer. I think we really need to dig in, find a little bit more information about that organization, and make an informed choice for yourself and your family. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys get something out of it. Please leave a comment if you've had any issues, positive, negative. Are you a coach? Have you joined a team with a parent coach? Whatever that looks like, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. We'd love to get your perspective. Thank you.
All right, welcome back to another episode here of Daddy Ball, where we're really just kind of getting into the topic of, parent coaches on teams, right? And, so this is a term in baseball that comes up, but this can apply to any sport, soccer, lacrosse, football. It doesn't matter the sport, but it's something that we kind of see pop up in baseball a lot, is this topic of, Daddy Ball, or having a parent on that coach, a parent who is a coach with their son or daughter on a team. And really kind of the issue is, potential biases, right? And what we're trying to, talk about is, are there reasons for this bias? Is it a reason that, different parents or, prospective players should be concerned about? Or are people making this more of an issue than it really needs to be? So we're here with Robbie, and first of all, Robbie, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day here and just talking about, your kids, your situation, your coaching, and kind of giving some insight into, where you're at and what you've gone through.
Oh, sure. I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts and insight.
Absolutely. So what I want to do is let's just introduce kind of yourself, your family. I just want to know, where are you a coach right now? And if so, are your sons or daughters there on any teams? What level they're at? Like, kind of what's your situation at right now?
Where we're at right now is I've got three kids, boys that oldest and youngest are boys. They both play baseball. My youngest one is not nearly as into it as my oldest one is. He's 8. He plays league ball only right now. My older one is 13. He's a sports fanatic, so whatever is going on, he's involved in it. Right now, he's doing league ball as well as travel ball, which we've done for several seasons now. He's just constantly playing sports. So
Okay.
on the league ball team, I'm an assistant coach with our league ball team. But on travel ball, we have the team we're on now is not a parent coach; it's a paid coach.
Okay. Okay. So, you started out kind of on this league team and you were an assistant coach. Was the other head coach a parent as well?
Correct. The league team that we're part of, we've been with the same team for about 4 years now, and the head coach is a parent as well.
Okay. Awesome. So, this son, he's a little bit more into baseball, obviously wanting to, play travel as well as league.
Correct.
Did you have different choices? So when you're looking at a travel ball team outside of your league team, were there choices that you could evaluate between parent coach versus a paid coach?
Yeah, in the area where we live, it's a large number of travel ball teams that run the
Okay.
gamut from lower level to higher level. So there's a wide selection that's available. Obviously you have to make the teams, but yes,
Of course.
there's a lot
Yes.
of travel teams. Yeah.
Okay, so lots of opportunities there. When looking at, I guess, some travel teams initially, now maybe this came into play early on, maybe not. What were the kind of the first things you started to look for on a travel team? right? Whether it was
Um,
the coach or just the organization as a whole. What were you looking at as a potential organization?
Initially, the travel ball teams that we started with were people that we knew, maybe people we had played with on league ball teams or knew through league ball teams. Some of those kind
Okay.
of more acquaintances
Yeah.
is how we kind of started out. And then as we've been in travel ball a little longer, it's sort of progressed into us knowing, sort of learning how travel ball works, what works for us. Every family's different and what they expect and what they want to get out of it. So.
For sure. Okay. So you obviously settled on an organization. At what point, or did it even come into play, the coach, right? Did you kind of start to narrow it down, and did that paid coach, was it a major factor in the decision? Was it more minor? What did that look like for you?
Well, since we've been playing travel ball the last several years with him, with the oldest, we've been on several teams
Okay.
around here. There's a high turnover rate with travel ball players on teams, so the teams just don't stick together very long. It seems like.
Okay.
But the current team that we're part of, it's interesting the way that you posed the question, because the team that we were part of, we left because a new coach had joined that was a parent coach that we didn't care for.
Okay.
So we left that team. And the team we ended up with, we initially came on to as just a pickup player because we didn't have a team at that moment. And we ended up liking the coach. The coach liked my son. My son likes the coach. And so we had the discussion about staying a little more permanent with that team. And that's where we're at now.
Okay. Now, jumping back just real quick, lots of turnover in your area. Any guesses or any reason why you see a lot of turnover? Just kind of curious on, that.
Yeah, my assumption is parent displeasure with the coaches to some extent.
Okay. Yep.
They get unhappy with the coach for whatever reason, or maybe 2 or 3 kids leave in mass to go to another team, and that original team has to break up because there's simply not enough kids left to make the level of team that it was prior.
That makes sense. Yeah. Especially I would think, given a lot more options, you don't really need to stick around and kind of stick it out, right? If there's,
Right.
this wasn't quite right, there are 3, 4 other teams probably in an immediate area, and that you're willing to drive, X amount, for practices and that type of thing. So if there's lots of options, you don't need to kind of put up with some of those, things that you don't love, right? If there's lots of different
Right.
options, right?
Right, and there's other reasons. If a parent, if a team, a new player comes onto a team, and that player's primary position is a spot, that where another kid had previously played, and maybe they're better. Well, then that kid doesn't get as much playing time, and so they leave to go to another team where they do get more on-field time. That kind of thing. So it's not always I'm mad at the coach, I hate the coach, I'm leaving. It may be more of my kiddo's not getting a lot of playing time, and he doesn't get better sitting the bench. I want to go to a team where at least he gets some reps. So
Yeah.
it's not always displeasure. Sometimes it's just more wanting advancement for the player.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of your son, 13U right now, right? Is that what you're
Correct,
saying?
13U. Yeah.
Okay. So, have you guys talked about kind of future goals? Is there any kind of roadmap, or right now we just concentrating on fun and development, and as long as he likes it, we're going to keep going with it? What do we?
Right now it's really more towards his development.
Okay.
Right now, he's only in 7th grade, so the goal right now is to make the high school team, which
Okay.
is still a couple of years out. So right now the goal is development towards a high school spot in a couple of years.
Okay. So now, looking at that organization that you have settled on, at least for this coming season or this season, is that an organization? I'm probably a pretty good guess here, but an organization that you feel has developed great players into high school, or if it's even older into beyond high school, college?
It's a relatively new organization.
Okay.
So there's not a lot of historical players moving up to different
Interesting.
levels.
Okay.
So it's, like I say, it was relatively new, but the coaching staff, they're really good with the kids. We feel, my wife and I both feel, that his development has improved with the current coach. We like his coaching style and the meticulous detail he pays to things that are easily overlooked. So while it's still a new organization, relatively speaking, I do feel like they'll have some high school and college prospects coming out of this in the coming years.
Okay, so it's more of a gut feel or just what you're seeing right now versus past performance.
Right. I'm seeing how all the coaches across the different age groups, whether it's 12U, 11U, on up to some of their 16 and 18U teams, the coaches that coach the various age groups, what they focused on and how they handle the team, both at practices and in games, it looks like it's a promising thing.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really great. Are any of the coaches in that organization parents, or are they all completely paid coaches, no kids? Do you know?
All of the coaches that I'm aware of that I've had dealings with are all paid coaches. I don't believe any of them have kids on the teams.
Okay.
They're all relatively younger, 20 to 23-year-old coaches. So none of them are really to the age where they would have kids old enough to be playing 11, 12, 13 or on up. So
Yeah, that's super interesting. Now, something that just kind of popped in my mind here is, so they're paid coaches. They are younger, just starting their careers, most likely. Do you worry at all about them? I don't want to use the term poaching, but maybe, getting a better offer from another organization and, kind of messing up that relationship with, between your son and that coach or that organization, and how constantly seeing turnover within the coaching staff. I don't know if that's a concern or if maybe I put that in your mind. Hopefully not, but.
Well, that's an interesting question because that scenario actually recently came up within the organization. And the coach that we actually play for is very good friends with the guy who started the organization and a couple of the other coaches that are within the organization. So they've actually been friends for a lot of years coming up, not just new acquaintances. And the coach that we actually play for was offered a coaching position within another organization here locally and chose to stay with the organization we're with now and with his friend. So that was another reason that my wife and I really felt like he was devoted to the continued progress of the organization and the athletes in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that decision right there probably speaks volumes and kind of makes you feel a little bit more comfortable with, the decision that you made, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, looking back, so you coach the league teams as well, right? Or your assistant
Correct.
coach as well. I think naturally there's going to be, as much as you want to try and avoid it, some bias. Is that something that you've noticed yourself making any decisions, son, or is it something that you've kind of become aware of at all?
I'm actually hypersensitive to that, being as we've been on teams with parent coaches before. So it's something I'm very hypersensitive about. So I actually sometimes will even go overboard in recommending, hey, how about we put this kid in this position when my son may or may not be the best one. I usually try to make sure my son is lower on the totem pole, just so that we make sure that parents don't feel like they're getting
no issues, right?
That daddy ball issue facing them. Yeah.
No, that I think that's really important, especially, if it's a league or, league team and, we're not competing for spots on, high school teams or, at the next level, kind of trying to compete for spots. Just making sure that everyone, has a good time, enjoys the game. Yeah, and I think a lot of parents are probably in that same boat here, just thinking, I think I would be the same, is that I would probably favor another kid over mine, like you said, to avoid those issues.
Right. It's hard to do, but I really try to make a point to do it because I try to really separate the league team from the travel ball teams. Whereas the league team, we're helping to develop these kids' love for the game. So it's kind of surprising to me that even at the age groups that we're playing in now with our league, it's a 14U, so it's 13 and 14-year-olds together, that there's still some kiddos that haven't had a lot of baseball exposure. So that's really the take that I try to bring to the team is for our league team is to really help those kids get enough of the game that they can decide if they like it or not. But I want to make it an enjoyable experience so that hopefully next year they do say, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, I liked playing. I want to try this again, as opposed to that was a terrible experience. I never want to do that again.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how does that, translate after the game? So, if you're maybe recommending someone over your son, car ride home with them, has there been any, discussion or kind of, tough situations that you guys have had to deal with and maybe talk them through why you've made certain decisions?
Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate that my 13-year-old is very mature for his age, so he
Oh, okay.
understands some of these things when we talk about it. But
Hmm.
typically, the conversation ends up being pretty similar every time. But it's along the lines of, "Hey, bud, you get a lot of reps on the weekends with the high-level team that you play on in
Yeah.
travel ball. We know that you can do these things on this team, but a lot of these kiddos, this is the only playing time they get. Or in practices, he wants to hit as well as everybody else doing BP." But we have to spend more time with the kiddos who don't have as much exposure, and so he understands that for some of the kids, this is the only time they get to see the field or to get some BP or to get someone to work one-on-one with them, where he gets some of that exposure multiple times a week at our travel ball practices and at those tournaments where, with our league team, you'll play 1 or 2 games a week, whereas the travel ball, you could play 4, 5, 6 games in a weekend.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
that's
you're
how
right.
the
He's gonna get
conversation.
a
Yeah,
ton more
that's where the
reps.
conversation goes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's super important, to make sure that they're part of decision making process, especially when
Right.
they're at an age, like I said, he's even mature for his age, to really understand why you're making a certain decision, and be a better teammate, and not say, hey, I want to hit BP because I love the game, I just want to get out there and work on my skills, but hey, I'm okay, I'm going to get reps tomorrow night, at travel ball practice, or this weekend,
Right.
here you go ahead, take more reps, at this
Right.
practice.
And there's things we work on in our league ball practices that he has already had exposure to at a much
Mhm.
higher level with our league ball teams. I mean, with our travel ball teams,
Yeah.
that some of the league ball players haven't had exposure to. So we use him as sometimes as the guy that runs back and forth in a rundown scenario. He understands what to do if you're on defense in that scenario, but a lot of the others don't. So he gets to be the guy who runs back and forth while we help the others progress in their defensive skills,
Mhm.
understanding that scenario. So those are the kind of things. So he knows he's still part of the team, and we talk about his value to the team even when he's not getting to do the things that he wants to do, but he understands that he has a role to play and he can still be a leader by
Yeah.
taking on those roles that may seem lesser, but are actually, you have to have someone do those for the scenario to work for everybody to learn.
Yeah, absolutely right. You need someone there, and if he's the one to kind of help grow the team as a whole, then that's just going to make him a better teammate, for years to come. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So now, so kind of coming back to, as we started to look at different travel organizations, was your son involved in any of the decision making, in terms of like discussion afterwards? Like, I imagine there were some tryouts, and or you go and see, take a lesson, whatever that looked like for you or their process. But was he involved in kind of the actively deciding, or did it kind of get left up to the parents there?
Yeah. Early on, when he was more 9, 10, 11, those sort of ages, it was my wife and I making those decisions, trying to figure in what would be the best position for him, the best place for him to be based on where he was at with his skill sets. The last couple of years, we've brought him into the fold as far as making that decision. It's not 100% his decision. We've told him we still reserve the right to say no if there's something else going on that we know is going to be negatively impacting towards you.
Of course.
But we've into the fold and saying, okay, how did you feel at this tryout? What did you think about the coach? What did you think about the other players that are already a part of this team? And letting him have a voice in how this plays out.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, hypothetical question here, and this may be a tough one to answer, but I'm just kind of curious. Is so if you went to another organization, right? Which it sounds like you're pretty happy right now, but
Right.
hypothetically, we have to move on, and there is a parent coach, but if your son loves that team, but you kind of get a sense of maybe a hint of some bias, that might pop up, but you really have no track record. What does that decision look like for you? If he absolutely loves, some of the teammates, really gelled with that coach, maybe in tryouts, what does that decision look like for you guys?
It's that you're right. That's a hypothetical that's kind of tough for us. That scenario has been a bit backwards for us. We've
Mhm.
actually, the team that we had to leave when the additional coach came on, we did love the team. We did love the kids. We did love the parents. He had a really good relationship with the teammates. Um, so going back to that scenario that you mentioned, it would be pretty tough. But if we were forced to leave our current team, there would obviously have been something negative going on to force us to need to leave that scenario, that situation. And
Sure. Yeah.
so we would probably evaluate it. Eventually, again, the buck would stop with us. We would make the final
Mhm.
determination. We would let him have some opinion and say, how well do you like this team? We think this other one is more suited to help develop you for, making the high school roster in a couple of years, possibly, that kind of thing. And he's to the point now where he understands the goal of trying to get a spot on the high school team in a couple of years is a goal that we're working towards right now. And so that may not necessarily involve a lot of fun goofing around. It's more let's get down and work and drive towards our goal now. So he's beginning to understand that quote unquote playtime may be a little bit over, and now it may be time to start looking at this as a more of a work scenario to get to your goal. While we still want him to have fun, we don't want him to get where he doesn't enjoy the game. The skill development would definitely have to be a big piece of it going forward.
Yeah. I think what you said there, work time, is that there's going to be some hard work. There's going to be some things that he may not enjoy particularly. It's not all just fun and games and laughing and joking around at practice. We got to work hard and acknowledge where you need work and kind of put some effort into building up those skills and things like
right.
that.
And he's already sort of working to that mentality. I see his mindset shifting a little bit. He's made some comments lately along the lines of, Dad, I'm not sure. We've picked up with some teams and does some other things, and I've heard comments along the lines of, man, Dad, I just can't handle that. They weren't taking it serious enough, or man, Dad, they were cutting up and I didn't like that. When we're on the field, we're there to work and to get better, not to play. So some of that mentality of working to that goal is already starting to manifest itself in his thought process. I can see.
Yeah. Do you think that's something that's come from this paid coach in this organization, is that it's about kind of the work and putting in work for your future goals?
I think it's a continuation of the progress that we've been on, the road that we've been on for the last several years as he's been in travel ball. It progressively, as this high school thing becomes closer and more in his face as it draws nearer, he's starting to see the discrepancy or the difference between the high level players who have potential to be on those teams and the ones who probably aren't going to even be possible to make the high school team. And so he's starting to really focus on being one of those players who focuses on the details so that he can have a potential to be there. So it's just sort of a progression. It wasn't an overnight thing, but I've seen a bit of a progression when I look back historically over the last few years.
Awesome. That's really great. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of insight here, in terms of paid coaches, parent coaches, that type of thing. And your son, I think, is at that perfect age, maybe a year or two past, where he knows his track or knows the goals. Do you have any kind of broad, best practice or best piece of advice for a parent who may be just about to enter this situation here, right? Where they're, okay, my son's, pretty good, enjoying the game. We're thinking about taking this a little bit more serious. What should we be looking for in terms of evaluating a potential organization if they have the option of looking at, say, a paid coach versus a parent coach? Right. Not everyone has that luxury, but if there is that situation, what would you tell that parent?
So a couple of things that I would look at just from my experiences, I would say don't completely devalue a parent coach just because they are a parent coach. They can still bring a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight, and a lot of good things to help your child progress and get better as a player and as a person, because that's their job. It's not just to teach baseball. They're there also to help them grow as a person. So don't completely devalue a parent coach. Some other advice that I would give is talk around, ask some friends, ask some people who are involved in travel ball, sort of get their insight on organizations that they may play in, even if it's a different age group. Just how does the organization function? Did you like it? Was communication clear? Did you feel like you got good value for the money you paid as far as your child developing and getting the things you expect? But take that with a bit of a grain of salt, because what I found is that no matter who the coach is in travel ball, you'll find someone who hates them, you'll find someone who thinks they're the best ever, and you'll find someone who is just like, oh yeah, they were okay, I didn't have a problem.
Yeah.
You'll find all three. No matter who the coach is, you'll find those three things out there. So value those opinions that others give you, form your own opinions as well. Don't go in with your mindset already made. And so some of the things that we did is, we're at these tournaments on weekends and we're at these different functions where these people are at, is we sort of watch how the coaches coach when they're not involved with our child, right?
Mm-hmm.
In between games, if they're playing on another field or another game in between, sometimes we'll just go and watch and see how that coach handles scenarios, right? If a kid makes a bad throw from third to first, does he completely lose his mind, or how does he handle that situation? How does he handle it when the team is losing? Those kind of things
Yeah.
sort of help us make our decisions. So those are all suggestions. Create your own opinions. I mean, there is value in other people's insight, but form your own opinions and form them in a scenario where this person isn't directly involved with your child, where they're not directly telling you things that they know you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Do it whenever they don't know you're watching. To me, that was the best. And a good example I can give is we recently played a team in a travel ball weekend. And after the game, my son came to me and he said, "Dad, I will never play for that guy."
Mm.
And I asked him why, and he gave me the reason, and it was a valid reason. And I said, that's good. I said, because I've seen him coach for 2 or 3 seasons now around, and you would never play for him anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
So the kids are also watching these coaches, so the kids can have some valuable insight as well. But that would be my suggestion. Don't devalue parent coaches. Take advice from others, but form your own opinions. Don't let them form your opinion for you.
Yeah. I think that's, amazing advice. There are going to be benefits to either side, right? And it's going to come down to a personal family decision. It's going to involve your child, how they feel with that particular coach or organization or even the teammates. You could have the best coach in the world, but if you have a ton of terrible teammates, then is that really going to be fun? And are they going to want to continue to show up week after week and weekend after weekend for tournaments, right? So
Right.
yeah, that's it's amazing. I really love the insight. I love that you're able to kind of understand where you're at as a head coach, what you bring to that team as a parent, and then really evaluate, take yourself out of that situation, and say, what am I going to do that's best for my child for his long-term development? So great insight, and I think a lot of parents, whether they're coaches or not, really should be able to kind of emulate that and just kind of take themselves out of the equation and making sure that they're doing what's best for their child.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So, I really appreciate your time here. Some great insight. I think this is definitely going to be, beneficial for a prospective parent here. And again, thank you for your time. And, want to wish, both your sons there, but, best of luck with the season, your team, whatever team they're on. And hopefully we develop and make that varsity team.
Hey, yeah, I hope so. That's the goal right now.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for letting me share some insight with you. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
All right, you too.